Hey, what's going on, everybody? CRT Matt here, and I'm with the infamous Mr. Ronnie Renton. Hello, Ronnie. How's it going, sir?
Very well, everybody. Hello. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the intro. Great intro, by the way.
What's that?
Great intro, by the way.
Oh,
Makes us realize we've got a few games out there these days.
Yeah, you do. I just wanted to thank you for coming on today, and I'm going to get right into it. I always ask this of all my guests: is how in the world did Ronnie Renton get into wargaming? Where did it all start?
I think I've always been into wargaming. I mean, it was when I was a tiny boy. I had Airfix miniatures, and I just used to set these huge battles up all over my bedroom. I've got the reimagined or re-remembered story of one time. It was a Saturday night, and I'd been sent to bed, and I could never go to sleep when I was sent to bed. I was always a late wakener. And so I spent 2 hours just putting soldiers all over, my big bucket of soldiers, big 1/32 scale, all over my bedroom. And my mum comes flying in. She hears me clomping around. What's going on here? And I said, well, the Germans are attacking from over here. The Americans are defending here. So, apparently that wasn't the answer she was looking for. And I didn't realize I was being sarcastic. So school was fascinated by history and that stuff. And then there was a war games club. So when I was 9 or 10, I found out about this war games club and went along there and started playing Napoleonics and then World War II, and then discovered fantasy, D&D, sci-fi. So, I had a pre-order for the first edition of Warhammer before it even came out. I was wargaming. I've been wargaming for 3 or 4 years by then. So I've literally done it nearly as long as the whole thing's existed.
I can say you probably have some experience in it then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But a little bit.
We used to take rubber bands. We used to take rubber bands. We would roll how many rubber bands, and we would take rubber bands and we would shoot it at the little toy soldiers. And before I found Warhammer myself, my first box was the Bretonian and Lizardman, I think.
So I was selling that. That was 1992.
92. Wow.
September, I think, or maybe 96. But I sold that kit. Yeah. No, 92. 92 was elves and goblins.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah,
then the next one after that,
one that had the little paper terrain and
everything. The one after that was Bretonians and Lizardmen. Yeah. So I was still selling that, and then sold a few more after that. So elves and goblins were the first ones, and the goblins failed their security testing, because I don't know if you ever played with them, but they had such sharp spikes that when you leaned onto the gaming table, you'd come away with about 6 of them sticking into the bottom of your arm. So,
oh yeah, good fun. So, when did you start Mantic Games?
So Mantic started in 2009, 10, kind of late 2009. So we started pushing putty in January 2009 with the elves, which were a little bit Marmite. People loved them, people hated them. And it was, I was looking for something just different. I didn't think there was any other choice out there. At the time, War Machine was doing pretty well, but it was very steampunky. It wasn't a vibe that I kind of dug with. I wanted a rank and flank game.
Right.
Big Battles, Big Armies, I think was our name at the time. And so we kind of came out in all of our stupid naivety and started pushing putty in January, launched the elves in September, launched the undead next, then the dwarfs, then came back to the undead with the zombies, which were the kind of breakout product. And then it all started rolling from there. The orcs, the rule book, Kickstarter,
right.
Dead Ball, Dead Zone, Mars Attacks, Walking Dead.
Yeah, you put out a lot of stuff over the years, and it's definitely improved over the years for sure. The quality, everything. You don't go backwards, and that's what I keep telling people is they just keep improving, and that's the way you should. But especially with 3rd edition Kings of War, of course, I watched some other channels about what's changed and stuff like that, and the changes in it are a little bit more streamlined. And then there's a new ambush that you got, and then champions. So, the idea behind it, I'm assuming, of course, is to get people in small, so it's not so overwhelming. Oh, I got to paint up this 100 goblin army, right? So, but they do the list for you in champions, which is great. You know, my kids actually were looking that online. I go, would you guys play this with me? He said, yeah. You want to paint them too? Sure, we'll paint with you. So I can see the interest.
We forget that the hardest thing about Kings of War, it's a great game, beautiful, looks fantastic, but you buy a mega army, which is great value for money, tons of stuff in there, so much stuff in there that you buy that, and I say, okay, I'll see you in 9 months. We'll start gaming then. Come back in 9 months, we'll start playing. Well, that's no journey, is it? That's just it's overwhelming. It's too much. And so, actually, in your early stages, you don't need army list building. You just want to get the box out and go, mine's roughly the same as yours. My chess set's the same as your chess set. Let's play black versus white. This came out from some of our online. We did a Dead Zone fixed factions on a My Mini Factory kind of STL. Just trying to get new people to start picking up Dead Zone. And we just put that fixed point factions. And I thought, we can do it digitally. Why can't we do it physically? And so we've made beautiful sculpts, 2 or 3 of the new units. So we've got this, you've been saying the plastics gets better and better. And Northern Alliance, you've got, the dwarfs flying on ravens with ice hand grenades.
It's so cool.
The abyssals. And so we're just knocking out the guys are knocking out some fantastic stuff. I said, well, let's really build a story behind each one. Let's talk about each champion. And the Kings of War universe is a living universe. So when things happen, when we launch a book like Halpy's Rift and the rift opens up, that's it. The map's changed, and there's consequences of that, which, watch this space, you're going to find out a lot more in November. But that sets something going that 3 years later is going to come out when the Abyss got bigger and the Brotherhood kind of fell in and became a broken up faction, not the powerhouse they were. These story arcs keep moving. And I said, well, why don't we just get a load of new champions in starting their journey, and we'll watch these guys over the coming years. And I think people love that. It's just you can follow the story of this guy or girl or creature or abyssal monster, any of the above. You can follow their journey as they build up their faction, and they're going to go from champions with a small squad of elite, couple of units of elite figures, and then they're going to keep running in the narrative. They're going to start getting books, and they're going to go on to become the heroes and champions of Impanithor in the months and years, many years ahead. So that's great stuff, and it's exciting. But what it also does, and far more importantly, is it allows people to get into Kings of War without having to wait 9 months to start playing. I'm halfway through my Northern Alliance faction, and it's compelling. It's just big enough. It's not one figure, which gets a bit dull quite quickly. It's not 4 or 5 figures, which I love about Halo is you 4 figures, and you don't need to paint them, but you will paint them, and you're gaming on Tuesday. But actually, if you're going to do a rank and flank thing, you just need that bit more. So and I'm just doing the bases, and thoroughly enjoying it. And I'm already thinking, actually, I don't want more Northern Alliance. I probably just want another faction, which is quite interesting because I've always thought, I'll do my dwarves, and it takes me ages to paint stuff. I'm slow. So it was always a case of, and then what's my next unit? And actually, Andy Burdiss, when he was saying this, he says, I think people will go and just have another faction. They're just going, that was a great hobby project. It was a month from buying to building to painting to playing a couple of times. Right, I'm going to play with them and we'll start building. And because we're constantly releasing Kings of War plastics, every time we revisit an army, it's going to get a new champion set. So there'll be a new champion every 3 months. So that game is going to get supported for forever. 5 years plus. You could bring out something cool and new, get a new champion, theme the army around that champion. So, now we're past all the infantry for all these. We can have a really characterful hero. And it'll be, can be that there's 2 there's 2 champion sets for some of them, perhaps.
Yeah, I love a storyline. Like, I love a storyline, and when I'm playing games and on the tabletop and stuff like that, I pick one guy on there and I paint him differently. And this is me. Bert. This is Bert. Bert is a blue dwarf, and I was a failed painting experiment. So he became my main man, and then we're going to do the story about Bert and firefight. But that's how I like the game. I like to have a storyline, and champions will give me that to ambush 2 Kings of War. And as I get them painted, I'll be able to, play the mass battles. And of course, I'm a dwarf fan as well. So
the dwarves. You've got to play dwarves.
I love the dwarves.
And so that's what's really great. I think people can start associating where we are. The community generally globally is growing very rapidly, and I think people are now going, hey, this Halo game is fantastic, which is the biggest game we've ever done, bigger than our Kickstarters, bigger than anything. But it's only just begun. It feels like there's a lot of people still waiting to learn about it, picking it up. We're going to shows, running lots of demos, demo days. And then people are going, wow, that was a fun experience. I rolled dice. I had fun, genuinely had fun playing a war game, which I think is our mantra deep down. It's that, I want you to come and enjoy yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think if it's too easy in a war game to focus on the winning. Yes, it's important, but enjoying it and then going, let's do that again. I enjoyed that. I lost, but I tell you what, it was a bloody blinking good game. I want to do it again. Right. That I think is compelling and good fun and healthy, and that's what we're striving for.
And it is a very important. I think it's probably the most important part of gaming. Period is just to have fun, and that's 100% the reason why I do it. And
and being able to do it with your friends and your family and your club, and keep coming back and doing it, and that comes from good rule sets. Because I think it prevents arguing about the rule rather than trying to compete, and the rules should be a given so that you can concentrate on your strategies and obviously blame the dice.
Right.
When they let you down, when the dice gods disappoint you, it's clearly their fault that you've lost, not your own tactics. Those damn dice gods.
Yeah, me and my solo opponent are both bad dice rollers, so so it makes for an exciting game.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
So, and story. So you mentioned Flashpoint, and I was going to get to that in a little bit, but we can talk about that now because I know that's the newest thing. So tell us about Flashpoint. Is it like Dead Zone? Or is it different than Dead Zone?
Yeah. So what we did, it's interesting. What we've built over 10 years, and most of these games are on 2nd, 3rd, nearly 4th edition. Nothing's on 4th yet. Is a design philosophy that is, I want to be able to play a game and a month later pick it up and play it again, and it's kind of the same game. And I think things like app army builders, I don't care if there's been an update. I just want to go and click along and click my dwarf units and download 2,000 points and play and roll some dice and have some fun and enjoy it.
I love that companion app. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's fantastic. But as far as Halo goes,
and so with Halo, we built this Dead Zone game, and I love the Dead Zone game. I really do love it. Low number count, but great terrain, quite claustrophobic, feels very tactical. And because we designed the terrain and the game and the miniatures all at the same time, there is a very natural. The first thing is it's almost impossible to argue about cover, because the assumption is you are in cover, and you've got to prove that you've got a clear shot, all of the figure, all of its base, to get the bonus for being a clear shot. Because obviously, if someone comes over with a big heavy machine gun and gets the drop on you, in effect, it's going to hurt. And one of the things that when I make and design and play games, I see it visually in my head. Mm-hmm. I don't see a static miniature standing there behind, like, can I see his gun poking out? I see a guy kind of ducking behind, or, a Spartan ducking behind the terrain. And I've seen some movements. I'm just pouring fire in there and chucking grenades and you hunker down and survive, or I get some shots off you and punch your arm and take your shields down. It's narrative. It's the computer game. So we knew we had a beautiful, compelling game system with Dead Zone, and then what Dead Zone was quite a serious, tactical, elite squads. You lose a couple of guys and you don't take some guys off them, you're going to be at a disadvantage. If they've taken 25% of your force away, they've now got a 3 to 4 advantage. So unless you're securing strategy points or that was part of your tactics, it's going to start hurting. So tactical, claustrophobic, beautiful, but deep down we knew there was no scenario that came up that had not come up because it's been played 10,000 times at tournament levels. And so we kind of went, if that manifestation is the proper 2-hour war game, these are the core rules. Let's take the core rules, cube movement, start with 3 dice, opposed rolls, and let's make it faster, quicker, more intuitive, more like the video game, more like Halo. And I think that's what we did. 4 guys, tons more wounds than you would have if you were the same size in Dead Zone. The most human-sized guys have 2 wounds, wound dead. These guys have 4. So and then just to spice it up, when they're dead, they respawn. So the game is always balanced. Right. So even if you lost a guy, particularly in Slayer, if you lose a guy, lose a Spartan, the opponent gets a victory point, your guy comes back on. Great. Game's even, back to 4-on-4. Let's go. In some of the other games, like Oddball, you can lose a Spartan and it has no game implications whatsoever. In fact, sometimes the way we set the spawn points up, we capture the flag, it can actually be beneficial. You think, well, actually, he's on his last legs. I'm going to run him in, do some damage, take some shields down. Clearly, he's going to get wiped out, but then he's going to respawn over there. So you can start using it as part of your tactics, which I just think is fluid, it's fast, it's great fun. And there is, like, at the moment, because it's only been out 4 months, there is some people going like, oh, no, this rule and that rule. And you're like, the rule's been answered. It's just learning, everyone learning what clear shot means. You cannot get a clear shot if someone's higher than you because you can't see all their base. It's as simple as that. The rule's hard baked. But no, I can nearly see all of the figure. Yeah, you can, but you can't see the backside of his base. So if he is higher than you, if they are higher than you, you can't see the base. Simple as that. Right. So all the figure and all of its base. Right? But it's just that learning curve, and eventually people go, oh my goodness, right. So I've got to be higher or come round the back and clear myself, get up to the cover, and then yeah, exactly. They can really start playing it and using it.
That's a cool mechanic, really. I mean, honestly, you're actually doing it as if it's happening, and not like a game mechanic where it's like, well, if you got something in the way or something like that, so.
Yeah, well, and you got to remember that they're not static. They're a representative of, and in the cube, we're like, I can see some movement over there. Right, let's get round. And quite often you get the clear shots when one of my guys is exposed, you run in and kill them. Great. Now you're in a square having set up to kill something, and I'm going to come round and position myself to go, you just kill my buddy. And you've been busy fighting, so you won't see that guy sneaking round and unloading a weapon and a couple of grenades and a spanker or a graph hammer in your direction. So, it's, if you think of it as a fluid, I'm going, you're going, but actually it's quasi-simultaneous. And if you think of a survive roll not as a mechanic of some dice rolls, but you're hunkering down behind the wall, you've seen someone shooting at you, ducking out the way, that scene in a movie, brrr, machine guns coming in, you're ducking around. So your dice rolls are your, and the better you are at it, the more likely you are to get more successes, and therefore more likely to not get your shields down, your kills, your wounds, whatever else. If you think of it cinematically, it gets even better. If you like the game now, think of this as a game that's actually happening, and you'll go, okay, so what he's doing is shooting in that area, and I can see him, so I'm putting some firepower onto that space where I know that guy is, and can I get through shields? Yeah, I could knock a couple of shields down. Great. Now can I, move and shoot again? Can my buddies come round and finish him off? You know, if I keep him occupied,
right,
knocking shields down, while, you know, Bob comes running over with a grav hammer and then whacks him on the head, because I've taken all of his shields down, he's busy doing that. There's a hell of a lot more chance of me of Bob knocking his head off.
So does it play like the video game? Like
yeah, very quick, very fast. Yeah, respawns, weapons pop up, you pick them up, you run past them. You know what they are, you can see them in front of you. So they're random where they appear. There's 4 spawn points on every map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But you can see them kind of hovering just like they are, you know. So you think that there's nothing worse than being a sniper and running across, doing something heroic, picking up and then finding you've got a grav hammer. You're like, I understand that guy if I knew it was a grav hammer. So you can see what it is. There is item that spawn in the game, item counters. There you don't know what they are, just like in the game. So you might get a grenade, you might get a med pack, you might get an ammo case. All of these have an in-game impact, but they're not as big as a, you know, weapon upgrade, grav hammer, spanker, whatever.
And do you get card profiles and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the utter joy of both the Recon Edition. So the Recon Edition is 4 blue team, 4 red team. Terrain, mat. On the reverse of the mat, there is a demo game. So it's 2 red team versus 2 blue team.
Oh, okay.
And then when you played it a couple of times, swap sides. Now you've played all of the fire team. So you've learned the keywords, you've learned how your weapons work, you've learned how your stat line works, you've learned movement shooting, and it's just a little mini kill scenario set up in the middle of instead of being a 2x2, it's a 1x1, I think, or 5x5, so 15x15. All the rules that you're going to need for shooting, fighting, combat. There's no respawn on that one because it's just learn to play. And your stat card is printed around the edge of the back. So you play it a couple of times, get very familiar with it, very happy with it. Right, now flip it over, put the rest of your terrain down, take your stat cards and put them across the back. Okay, and the army list building is very, very complicated in both Recon and Spartan. Very complicated. I have 4 Spartans. You have 4 Spartans.
Yeah, that sounds really hard. I don't know if I'd be able to understand that one.
Yeah. So it's not 3 and it's not 5.
Right.
It's 4.
4.
So,
wow.
And that's lovely. We've built the stat lines. In the Spartan edition, you get 8 red team, 8 blue team. So there's 2 Deadeyes, there's 2 Brawlers, there's 2 Mark 7s. But guess what the army selection is?
Spartan?
Yeah, 4 of them. So in the bigger set, you just pick which 4 you want. They're all kind of balanced. You can go double Deadeye, 1 Sprawler and no Svezda. Fine. And it's great because it's balanced, because what we're trying to learn is come along. You're going to have moments where you get the 8 train going and you roll 7 8s because 8s explode. You guys going to get either you're going to get like the best defense you've ever rolled, or you're going to blow the guy off the face of the earth, and then he's going to respawn, come back at you, and you're going to enjoy rolling dice, hanging around with your buddies, having some fun with the game. Now, as time goes by and the banners start arriving, and you can start equipping your team with spankers and grav hammers, you're going to need to be a little bit more careful. But in the early stages of learning this game, what we're going to do is we want you to have fun, not be worrying about min-maxing this or that, not worrying about veterans coming along and beasting you. We want you to just be able to enjoy rolling some dice, learning the game. You're feeling pretty balanced. Better players will win more of the time, but a couple of good rolls can swing it.
Right.
And picking up that big weapon and just doing something brave with it can swing it. But what you're going to have is some memorable moments of rolling dice and playing with the miniatures, and I think that's great fun. Dead easy to paint, 4 figures, 8 figures in the Spartan set. You get more terrain in that. You get a deluxe board in that. So nothing you need, but everything you want. And then as time goes by, it will get crunchier. There will be more layers to it. It will get more nuanced. But, some part of me is looking forward to that, but some part of me is also already missing the simplicity of you pick 4 and I'll pick 4.
Right. Yeah. Well, so there's a new set coming out in July, and I'm very curious about it, and I haven't really looked at it because it's eye candy. What's the newest set that comes out in July? What has that got in it that's different?
Yeah, okay. So what we've got is we've got three tiers, 3 phases at the moment. The first phase is Spartan on Spartan, and it's kind of like infinite. It's almost a training mission. I've got 4, you've got 4. You die, you respawn, you come straight back in. It's kind of a computer game and in that you've got capture the flag, you've got oddball. After you've done Slayer, you've got all the different strongholds, you've got all the different mechanics, different ways of playing. After that, the first thing we introduced, which was Wave 2, was the expansion called War Games. And that gave you points. Because the truth is, a Grav Hammer is better than the Bulldog. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to equip mine with a Bulldog, with a Grav Hammer, now we need to introduce points. Because you need to balance that up somehow. You need to take a couple of grenades or da-da-da-da-da. The War Games is simply, here's 8 new Spartans, kitted out, so you get the cards for them kitted out. With now we're starting to get different stats, but now because we're giving them points, everything can have points, so you can start just tweaking, but off the Spartan army list. So we've got no different foes. My Spartan army list is better than your Spartan army list, but we're both picking off the same army list. Still very quick play, still the basic scenarios. There's 2 new scenarios in War Games, but what I'm really doing is adding heavy weapons, heavy close combat weapons, and so on and so forth. In May, we've got something called Fire Team Phoenix, and these are what we've actually done. These are in just an incredible new materials called mastercrafted resin, mastercrafted plastic, if I would call it. But we've taken the 4 original guys from Recon and reposed them in what you can't do with PVC. So PVC is you take them out, you put them on the table, they're blue or red, and you're playing within 10 minutes. You paint them, they look great. But what we can do in Mastercrafted is these are now not have to be built for PVC. These are multi-part kits. You need glue, you can spray them up. But the Svezda's reloading his gun. The Mark 7 is running with a machine gun. Things you just can't do in PVC, things you can't do if you want them to be one piece and durable. So they're for the painters, for the connoisseurs, for the collectors. And if you haven't ordered it, get it ordered quickly because they are the 2025 show special. And we know people can't get to the shows, so we are just making them available for everybody for a month. And then however many we order, we'll just go and make them and we'll ship them all out. Yeah. So, and that's kind of starting to become the end of the first wave of Spartans because you've now got core Spartans, 8 core troopers plus 8 upgraded guys. You've got Master Chief kicking around, and you've got some of them reposed for the Master.
Yeah, Master Chief was cool looking. I never played the Halo game. I know a lot of people have played it, 100 million times, and I've watched and seen it played, but I've never actually played the game. But this does seem like something I would get into because I'm a sci-fi nerd as far as miniatures go.
Yeah.
I don't really care for the
and
movies.
You love it because of the gameplay anyway. You don't need to actually know Halo. You just need to love miniature games because it's so easy. When you're looking for, can I play with my kids? They just get it. Like, they know the IP, they know Master Chief, they know Spartans. And all of a sudden they're moving figures, rolling dice, and they, invariably start kicking your ass quite quickly because if I get higher, Dad, can I do I get extra dice for that? Is that a clear shot? I think I get extra dice for that. You're like, yeah, you do. Don't roll 8s. Oh, okay.
Yeah, my oldest son used to beat me all the time at everything. We play 3 or 4 times and I get a big kick. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna beat this kid. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, he's got me on my toes now.
Yeah, I remember Rafe doing it to me with Walking Dead. I'm like, okay, I'll give him a little soft start.
Right.
Crumbs. Okay, I'm going to lose here. Anyway, we talk about July. July is Rise of the Banished. And all of a sudden, you are not in training anymore, Spartan. You get ready for combat deployment.
Oh, good.
You are now we've got 4 elites in the game, but they're kind of the same stats. And in Halo 2 or 3, you can play as an elite as a player character. So it kind of sneaked in the phase 1. But the Banished have never been on the side of the Spartans. They are definitely the other side. Not quite true, but anyway, great big bulky guys, got the elites with them. We've got Atriox leading them. And now we've got new terrain to come with it to give it a different game vibe. And the guys have done a stunning job.
Yeah, that looks great.
So now you've really... Now, normally, a two-player set is, Goblins versus, Ratkin, whatever it is, War in the Halls.
Right.
Spartan and Recon were Spartan versus Spartan. Because we were building everybody, so everything was even to the point that we then can start introducing the bad guys and all the good guys, depending which way you want it. But, the faction. And so July is your first chance to get properly hold of the other faction. And I think it's going to take the game on from where it's got to already, which is an exciting, competitive game, to like the next level, where suddenly I'm playing the Banished and then there's new releases coming all the time, every couple of months. We'll have the ODST after that. So now you can either put your ODST in your Spartans or you can play them as a pure faction versus themselves. So now it's starting to really give you options about your game style, how you want to play. So yeah, it's going to keep growing. We've got years of releases planned for it, and we are excited.
That's great. Like I'm really looking at it. So it's just one of those things that I have 8 children, so they love to play these small games with me and stuff like that, and I might as well incorporate them, and
and that's
interested.
Yeah, my kids are now. My youngest is 17, and one of the things was I realised that I had my hobby and I didn't have games that could introduce them to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why we made Dungeon Saga Origins.
Oh, yeah.
I made Dungeon Saga kind of play my kids, and then I realised it was too hard. By the time I'd finished setting it up with all the little nuances and pieces of kit, they were bored and back on their Xbox.
Right.
So Dungeon Saga Origins is the barbarian, the elf ranger, the wizard, the dwarf, fighting against undead, then goblins, then abyssal dwarfs. You get the terrails, you get the trains. There's an app, so whenever you've played a mission, you can save how much gold you got, what equipment you got, come back in a month's time and play again. And it is because I never got to play that game with my kids, and I don't want other people to miss out. So it is toy soldiers. It is moving figures and rolling dice, but it's purposefully designed to be enjoyable. You can either play as the Overlord against them, and you've got some latitude to how tough you play, or with them. The app says you go in this room, you see 2 skeletons. Here they are. Have at it. And so we're purposefully positioning ourselves into some of those spaces.
Right, and that's great. Obviously, my favorite 2 games is Kings of War and Dead Zone Firefight, and Warpath. Believe it or not, I still have Warpath rulebook. So, so you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Warpath?
I don't know what it is, but as we get older and our eyesight gets worse, we now want to start playing in 10 mil instead of 28 mil.
Yeah, no.
So, I don't know what it is. I think if we just get to the point, you think, what, they're red ones and they're green ones and they're blue ones, and I'm just going to spray them, get them done on the gaming table. So we did a Kickstarter last year because obviously it was a huge tooling undertaking. Where we can do armies for Kings of War, no problem. We can do Halo, which was a 4-5 tool. But when you're starting to talk about the type of tooling commitment for a game like Epic, and you can't do one army at a time, you need to come out with 4, 6, 8 armies right from the get-go. It was a big commitment. So we went back to Kickstarter, very popular on there. You've even got the core plastics. So once we've done the plastics, they're going out to everybody, and then you can have the super heavies and the extended range. You can have them in STL, so you can print them at home, or you can get them in resin. So we'll cast them up for you and send them out. So great game. I think we've got Forge Fathers. You have to help me out here. Enforcers, Play,
GCP, Asterians, Maisons.
Yeah, Maison Labs. Yeah, okay. So there's some great.
One of my other favorites, the Plague.
Yeah, they're definitely there. I saw those painted the other day. The Asterians look fantastic. So really lovely factions coming in. Great big battles, super heavies, which just take it to the things you genuinely can't do at 28 mil. They just break the game and dominate the game. Well, here they are. They're absolutely baked in at epic scale, which is what we love. Big 6x4 proper strategies, proper flanking maneuvers, and taking buildings and taking positions on the gaming table. So shipping to backers in June, and then coming out to retail and an STL launch in July.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then I think the Banished are just before or just after that. So we're going, here's a 4-figure game and here's a 400-figure game. So the kind of the breadth of what we're doing is landing. But yeah, really good following for that. Beautiful paint schemes coming through. As I said, yours is. I think I saw your Forge Father paint scheme is very similar to the Dwarf one in there, but it is that epic scale battles, hundreds of figures, super heavies, battalions of artillery, battalions of tanks coming in and armored columns, and obviously how they fight all varies on their basic DNA.
Right.
So yeah, very exciting, and I think that's probably from a 4-figure super detailed skirmish game like Halo through to a 400-figure 6x4 mass battle game. That's the heart of Mantic. Between those 2 points, the Kings of War lives inside there, Dead Zone and Firefight live inside there, and then we have fun with things like Worms and Dungeon Saga Origins, which are recruiters, they're miniature games, they're miniature board games. Worms is a war game. It looks like a board game, but you move your figures, you roll your dice. Just somehow it always goes wrong because that's Worms. But there's great ways of new people finding out about us, and also great for turnover and to make people more aware of us.
Well, I know that. How close is the rules? Is it close to Firefight, or is it where they have the command dice that you roll, or
for Epic?
Yeah, for Epic.
Yeah. It's like another layer on. So I talk about when we design a game, what's the DNA? And the core DNA says it's this many. And when you get too many of that, it starts to break. So Dead Zone is 6 to 12 figures. More than 12, even of a horde army, it starts becoming okay. Firefight is squad vehicle based, 2-3 vehicles, 4 vehicles, 20 to 60 figures in squads of 5 to 10.
And that's except unless your rats are
Yeah, and then like I say, always a horde army pushes it, an elite army is at the lower end or just outside it, but the core DNA of a game lives around a space, and that's why with Dead Zone you've got Dead Zone you've got that 3D. It's a 2x2 by 1.5, and it's the height that really changes it. And I think with Epic, so it's the similarities, yes, DH, yes, and command choices, and actually, but what it's about that game by then is about control. It's about command and control, and you've got to kind of guess what your opponent's going to do, because the time it takes for you to start maneuvering your troops. Halo, I was talking about, they shoot at movement and something over there. It's a one-on-one. It's a visual cinematic moment. When you're stepping into the Warpath, the Epic game now, Warpath, it's artillery. We think they're moving up into the this area. Can we get some air support in here? Can we deploy those? Oh, crumbs! They're not going there. They're going over there. Damn it! We've committed. They've now outmaneuvered us. What can we do about it?
Right.
And so I think when you think of it, if you sit in that game at that command and control structure, you've got a kind of insight into the type of game it is.
Right. Well, I saw on the website this little bitty spot that says that you teamed up with a company to make a game called Assassin's Creed.
Well, I don't know if you heard of it. It's a small little niche computer game.
I did play Assassin's Creed.
Right. That one you have done. So the joy of Assassin's Creed is all of those fantastic timelines. They're all tied together by the animus with the missions that are going on. But at its core, we love it for Valhalla, Origins, for Black Flag, for Ezio. You know, you've just got all this. And so, as I was looking at it, I was thinking, well, what's the miniature game? And there just isn't. There isn't a miniature game that you could play that would be compelling of Ivor playing against Connor. It just doesn't make any sense. But as a little board game, oh my goodness. So I'm leaking here. I shouldn't be talking about this, but essentially, I play my timeline, and I've got to achieve my mission. I've got to get my assassinations in Assassin's Creed. You've got to do yours in order to win, and we're trying to do it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cards, memory blocks, and stuff, and put them in front of me. Get my assassinations out here. I'm going to try and block you from getting your mission done so that I can win. So it's a player versus player. Up 2 to 4 players at the moment. There might be a 5-6 player option, but you pick your timeline, you pick your favorite. They play asymmetrically. Not everyone's doing the same mission all the same time. Everyone has their own unique decks. And I played on Friday. It looks fantastic. It's very good fun. It's very compelling. And when you get in there, you just want to play it and play and play it.
Well,
I think we're hitting Kickstarter around July, I guess.
July. Okay. Well, you got a backer already. I saw that and I went, no, really? Yeah. Awesome. Oh. Wasn't excited about the Halo, but man, I mean, now hearing about it, I'm
totally excited.
Trigger on that Halo.
Well, and that's just what we're trying to do. And the nice thing is, our games are around for a long time. We have the website. We don't have endless choices in each army. We have great games, and the problem is, which one do you want to play now? If you're in lockdown, in 2020, we launched a game called Armada, which was fantasy naval game. Absolutely beautiful sculpts, fantastic work by Luigi, and great rules. And that came out into retail at that time, and came out and did really, really well. Lots and lots of people played it. But with games like that, they seem to have a period of time in retail, and then something else new comes along, and kind of you've done it. But we put it up on the Vault subscription. You can now go along, and in a couple of months, you'll be able to literally go along and go, hey guys, shall we all do a fantasy naval? Shall we all play Armada for a few months? Yeah, but naval, great. You'll be able to buy the rules digitally. You'll be able to print the fleets digitally, and the next week you're playing it. And so we can keep supporting these games. There's great rules committees that fall in love with it and want to keep tweaking it and changing it up. So what's nice is we're finding a way of making sure that our games are there for when you're ready to play that kind of game.
Right.
And of course we have new releases that are hot. Halo's hot at the moment. Assassin's Creed can be big for a while, or it'll be massive because it's such a big IP. But it doesn't mean that we don't keep supporting Dead Zone like we did last year through the digital. We're finding ways now of having choice there for whenever you want it. Whenever you fancy playing that, you're going to get your kids, your gaming club into it. It's there. Go away, print it, buy it from us or one of our online retailers. While at the same time, there's hundreds and hundreds of stores in the US now with Halo, and they are actively playing it. The tournament scene's growing. New releases are coming out. So there's a kind of static over here space for the kind of connoisseur that wants to play that kind of game now and then go to this one. And then the stuff that, you do need lots and lots of people getting into, and it's got to be compelling for them. They've got their stores, they've got their bills to pay. They need to get people in on games night. And so we can pick things like Assassin's Creed and Halo and take those out to a much wider audience.
Right. And I mean, just seeing the figures for Halo, and I've been looking at them and stuff like that as we're talking, and they're fantastic. They're really nice looking, and I have watched some videos. So they're really, really nice miniatures, and I keep looking at it and going, oh, but I want to get this first and that. It's like making a decision. But honestly, I mean, it's just me and my children and a couple friends sometimes, occasionally, but I'll be playing solo, obviously, but like I've played solo Firefight a million times, which is kind of hard to do. but my solo opponent's getting better,
Yeah,
so
he always rolls the 8, does he? Yeah.
But you got literally something for beginning to mass, and you can work on it. You can slowly build it and still play a game as you do it. And that's what I've always enjoyed about your games, and noticed even when you had Vanguard, and even when you had, even the Armada. I had the Armada. That was fun. Like it was a good time, and you didn't need a ton of models to play with and stuff like that. So like you said, with the Spartans, you have Spartans, and
don't want to join us.
It's all about that fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to recruit. People have busy lives, and they have the things, and so we need something to, something for the Epic guys. We need something for the Halo guys.
Right.
They're in a different place.
I don't see myself playing 10 mil, but I guess I am.
Yeah, all of a sudden you are. Yeah, neither did I, but done enough. When those sprues arrive, make sure if you're on my desk, please. I need to check them for quality assurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you see for the future for Mantic? You got lots more ideas and cooking. You don't have to say anything, but what do you see in the future?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we're out there. I think we've got Assassin's Creed, which I think is going to be a massive game. And I think yet again another board game into another big audience and another AAA license to go alongside Halo. So suddenly, we've done Hellboy, we've done Walking Dead, so we've got a number of the big comic licenses that have been done. We're now starting to add to that the computer game license, from the quirky stuff like Worms through to Halo through to Assassin's Creed. These are real kind of nostalgia, but tier one licenses. And so we're kind of getting this reputation as a quality licensing company. Yet when you get into us, you suddenly discover that the creativity is going into Epic, it's going into Dead Zone, it's going into Firefight, Kings of War, Champions. So alongside that, we've got these evergreen IPs that we're building ourselves, where when I or someone else walks in and has a crazy, hey, why don't we take this? We've got these ongoing running narratives in Panathor and the Warpath universe. And then top it off, we've got Dreadball coming back. So, what a year. That's a heck of a roster, and I think if you don't like Champions or Kings of War, you don't like our STL Armada, you don't like Epic or Firefight or Dead Zone or Halo or Assassin's Creed or Worms or Dreadball, you probably don't like what we've got.
Right. That's well said.
You're probably not a Mantic customer. You probably need to go and play card games, or I was going to say RPGs, but we do have a Hellboy RPG. And we've got Dungeon Saga Origins as well. So if you don't like that, and I go to Gen Con and there's, 80,000 people there. And I say to my guys, 1 in 10, 2 in 10 tops of the people going round are our type of customers because they love miniature games. I go to Adepticon and it's 10 out of 10. At Adepticon, absolute, everybody might like what we do, but they certainly like miniatures. So they either like our miniatures or they don't. They like our kind of games or they don't. They might like 4 mil historical or, 54 mil, dueling games. Fine. But, they all come and play some miniatures. Whereas you go to Gen Con and Games Expo, and a lot of people love board games. And we we dabble at board games, but it's not our core. Worms and Assassin's Creed, we're picking up cool licenses and making cool board games, but it's not the core of where we live. We're not, the wingspan of the world. We're not Magic the Gathering. We're not D&D. We're a miniatures company. That's where we live, and that's who we are, and that's what we do. And
well, I'll tell you what you guys are, and this is for me personally. So 10 years ago, or maybe 8 years ago, I was using your miniatures as an RPGs. For RPGs, and then I saw the terrain crates and I got those for some RPGs, and then I was like, wow, this can go into my miniature stuff, because I started getting to the miniature gaming. And I got Dead Zone. That was the first game I got from you guys. But what I've noticed over the years, I keep gravitating towards your company, towards your models, and towards your miniatures, because they have that nostalgic old school, tongue in cheek, funny, not dark, fun to them. It's not an, oh, this is evil, that's evil, this is going to annihilate the world all the time, So
there's escapism. It's fantasy, it's sci-fi, it's escapism, and we lean into that. My idea when you're painting on minis, if you can get them done, and I'm doing my Northern Alliance right now, and if you can get your Spartans done over a weekend, and be playing with them on Tuesday, and then go up on the Tuesday and take your minis out and spend 3 hours rolling dice and have some laugh out loud moments, then we're doing our job. We're helping you have fun. We sell fun. We put it in a box.
Like hobbits, halflings. Halflings on the table. Like you don't see that anywhere else. The fantasy rats. The Veermen. Using both models for both games, and which I'm doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, money's hard to come by, isn't it? And so if you can
abyssal dwarves, play them in different ways. Evil dwarves. Like where else can you get that? So for me, that's where it's like, oh yeah, today I'm feeling quite, evil. So I'm going to play the evil dwarves, but I'm a dwarf fan. So, There's
always dwarves. Depends what mood you're in, but there's always dwarves.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to say or anything else you wanted to throw out there?
No, that was just thank you for having me on. Thank you for enjoying what we do. Thank you for everyone that's listening. It's a great pleasure. We've got an absolute fantastic few years coming up. We're growing like crazy. Obviously, we're just going to, with our US listeners, we're trying to navigate the tariff situation at the moment. We've got some plans in place. The good news is the next 3 months, Epic's coming from the UK. Fireteam Phoenix is coming from the UK. Champions is all made in the UK. So, the worst it's going to be at the moment, it looks like 10%, which we can cope with. We can might just have to have a small bump just to cover the tariffs for our partners, like our retail stores. But we can navigate that. And by the time we get around to Rise of the Banished, we'll find a way of making sure that we can manage it as best we can. If we have to build it and finish it in the US, we'll do that. So, but other than that, we've got an absolute firecracker of a couple of years coming up. Assassin's Creed is going to be with you. Dreadball's coming back, and boy, do we have some stories with that. Epic's going to be in backers' hands in June, and everyone else is in July and through August. So, very excited. Thank you for having me on the show, Matt. And it's going to be a great couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to talk to you again. You'll have to come on again and let us know in a couple
Sounds
months.
Good to me.
Something. Yeah, heck
Let's
yeah.
do that.
All right, well, don't go nowhere. Hang on 1 second. But guys, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. I'm CRT Matt, and this is Ronnie Renton. Thank you so much. And go out there and check out Mantic Games, okay?
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.